So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our introductory webinar about the Peace Corps Paul D. Coverdell Fellows Program at the University of Arizona. So again, here's just some more instructions on how you're able to access that chat option. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. So I am currently the program coordinator for this summer.
I'm Georgia Ellers. I'm the director of the Office of Fellowships and Community Engagement, which is part of the Graduate College. We manage both the Coverdell Fellows Program for the university and also assist graduate students who are seeking fellowship funding. And we often submit grants ourselves. So we're a good resource service-oriented office. I have not served in Peace Corps, but I was a city planner for a long time, and my heart is definitely in the community, and I'm a huge fan of Peace Corps.
And just to give a little bit more background about myself, I'm a current fellow, and I am in the master's entry to the Profession of Nursing program, and I will actually be graduating at the beginning of August, here in just less than 30 days. And I'm also completing my outreach assistantship through a local organization called Clínica Amistad, which we will get to a little bit later in this presentation. And then someone else that we wanted to go ahead and introduce is Elizabeth Capassi, and she will be one of the assistant coordinators that will be helping out starting in the fall through the following spring. So she's probably someone that you might be communicating with. Okay, so if you all are able to give some introductions about yourself, we just would like to know your name, what academic program that you're interested in applying to, one fun word from your host country language and what that means, and then also where you're joining us from today. And you'll want to go ahead and type those into the chat box. I'm just going to end the slideshow here for a second so that I'm able to see if anyone's having issues. Are you all still able to hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. So if you all just want to go ahead and take a few moments to share a little bit about yourselves. Again, your name, where you're joining us from today, what academic program that you're interested in applying for, and also one fun word from your host country language and what that word means. And type that into the chat box. Again, we have you all on mute, so we're not able to hear you. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, so it looks like we have Adam joining us from Florida. He's interested in the PhD program in epidemiology. And John is joining us, and he's going to be actually starting with us in the fall, pursuing an MA in teaching and teacher education. and he is joining us from Oklahoma. Okay, so Andrew, Catherine, and Morgan. Oh, perfect, Catherine. So it looks like Catherine's joining us from Philadelphia. She's interested in the MPH, either health policy or family and maternal health. And then Morgan is interested in the MEPIN program, which is the program that I am currently in. And he's listening in from Arizona. Wonderful. Great. And then Andrew, wonderful. So usually we will have a current fellow, or I'm sorry, a current Peace Corps volunteer or two that are still serving. So it looks like he's still serving in Colombia, and he's interested in applying to the Teaching of Spanish Language program. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll jump right in. So here's an overview of what we're going to be covering. So we just gave our introductions. We'll be talking about the different academic programs that we offer. Some more information about the Coverdell Fellows program, such as the benefits and support, the requirements, the application process and timeline, and who to contact for academic versus Coverdell questions. And then if we have some time at the end, we might take a few minutes to also share what we love about living in Tucson. Okay, so next we want to talk about the academic foci and community issues of our fellows. So we have great programs that are offered here at the University of Arizona and a wonderful community where our fellows work. We currently partner with programs in 11 different colleges. So when we think about the work that our fellows do, we can categorize it in this way. So the first is art and design, and this includes art education, museum studies, and landscape architecture. There's environment, which includes agriculture and resource economics, environmental policy, rangeland planning, and related natural resources. There's education, which includes English as a second language, teacher education, educational leadership, and language, reading, and culture. Social sciences, which includes geography, development practice, anthropology, Latin American studies in the iSchool. Management, administration, and planning. This includes MBA, MPA, and planning programs. And there's two more here. So there's STEM. So this is going to include hydrology, environmental, and civil engineering. And then the last one is health, and this includes public health and nursing. And then we also offer several dual degree programs. Okay, so next Georgia is going to discuss what benefits fellows receive.
Thanks for joining us all today. The university has funded fellows many different ways over the years, but for the last 3 years, we have been offering a quarter-time graduate outreach assistantship, and it allows us to fund you while you're doing the work that in the community to benefit an underserved community. It can also, we'll talk about where and how those get set up later on in the today. Each assistantship will waive non-resident tuition, so you're charged at the in-state rate. It pays for half of the in-state tuition, and it provides a stipend, which at this point in time is running $8,450 for the academic year. That's paid out every 2 weeks in a paycheck. Taxes are taken out of it along with FICA. We also cover the U of A student health insurance policy for the fellow only. Its value varies from year to year, but it's roughly at around $2,000 a year. It's paid automatically. There's a 10% whopping discount at the U of A bookstore, which comes in handy for supplies, books, U of A clothing, drug supplies, all that kind of stuff. And our fellows also are awarded need-based work study. That can vary in the amount that you qualify for. Someone who's been back in country for a while and has been working gainfully employed might have to do a reevaluation of resources. But generally, fellows will receive an award of $3,000, which can go not for a different kind of work or project, but can add to the hours that you're using through your quarter-time assistantship. We also provide professional development opportunities over the year, and we'll get into the kinds of outreach and social things that we do. Many Peace Corps fellows have had a lot of professional experience, so we're always calling on our fellows to take a strong role. We have a fellows club, and they often organize that. And then we call on our alumni and also bring in other people in the community and on campus to provide information. I think, yes, finally, our fellows receive a mentor who can provide guidance on the fellows program, the UA academics, where to go for what in Tucson. And we have some information, some of which you can find on our website, like the Moving to Tucson guide, which we update yearly. And it's written by fellows for fellows. It's got tons of helpful tips on living well as a grad student. And we also put out a regular newsletter, usually once a week, with information about the program, reminders, and interesting opportunities that are available. Over the summer, if you're an incoming fellow, we send out a weekly email with the question of the week or any questions that people have and tips to prepare for moving here. We also help, we'll talk about it more under our assistantship, but we help organize and facilitate matching people with the assistantship. Then when our fellows arrive here, which is always at least, our orientation takes place the week before classes start in August. We start early here in Arizona, and we'll have an 3 orientation sessions, one with the fellows to sort of get to know each other, network, all of that, one with our supervisors at the internship sites where people will be placed, and we have a social to introduce you to all the alumni that are still here in Southern Arizona, and to have fun and also do some work in preparation for outreach work that we do.
Okay, so let's take a moment and see, I want to see if you all have any questions before we continue. And feel free at any point throughout this webinar to jump in and ask a question in the chat box.
This is Georgia again. There's one thing that I might add on about benefits. Since we offer a 0.25 assistantship, I want to state that many fellows also find a second 0.25 assistantship, so that is something that you can do. So that brings your total support up to 0.50. It doesn't come through the Coverdell program, but we have begun collaborating with a number of outreach units on campus to make that happen. And that waives even more of your tuition, but it is not guaranteed. Let's see. Does anybody have a question that you're typing in? We can't see if you're typing in this version, so. I think we'll go on, and if you are typing, we'll see it and go back and pick up your question.
Okay, wonderful. So next we are going to talk about what does bringing service home mean to you? So if everybody wants to just take a few moments just to type a few thoughts into the chat box about what this means to you. And then we're going to talk about how this relates to the Peace Corps Coverdell Fellows program here at the U of A. Wonderful. So John says it's sharing pictures, stories, experiences, and just a different way of living with people back here. And Catherine says transferring skill sets gained abroad to domestic communities. So both great answers. Give you all just another 30 seconds or so. Yep, so that includes language, cultural competency. Morgan says it means bringing the cultural perspective and growth gained to communities back home. Let's see, Andrew says maybe continuing to apply the development skills we've learned during service back home to support communities and lend a hand wherever possible. Great, so those are all really wonderful responses. So I wanted to share this quote from the Peace Corps website. So all fellows complete internships in underserved American communities, allowing them to bring home and expand upon the skills that they've learned as volunteers. These skills in adapting to new cultures, developing and managing projects, dealing with language barriers, and leveraging limited resources attract the attention of prospective schools. So this is really the basis for the entire Peace Corps Coverdell Fellows program here at the U of A, and it's also offered with 90 partner institutions across the US. And so we also bring this into the Fellows program, and we'll talk about this here in just a minute, but part of the requirement is that you will need to do 10 hours a week in both the fall and the spring semesters in the form of an outreach assistantship. And so you will be paired with an agency and you'll be performing basically like a part-time position with an underserved, among an underserved population. Okay. So the Coverdell Fellows at the U of A. So in total, the fellows are about 382 since the program first started. They've put in about 400,000 hours from the year 2000 to 2017 for a total economic impact of $6.5 million from 2000 to 2015. So some competitive benefits for fellows, they're valued at about $16,000 to $19,000 a year for an in-state student, and upwards of $41,000 to $42,000 a year for out-of-state students. As you can see on our slide here, there's about 50 fellows that are in the program at any given time. They've completed more than 33,000 hours, 33,000 hours of community engagement, service, and leadership in the last year alone. And then we do partner, we have partnered with up to 150 different agencies in the community. So there's a lot of different opportunities here and ways to get involved with Tucson. Okay, so next we're going to talk about some of the requirements of the Fellows Program. So time commitment is always a concern for applicants. And there's 4 areas of requirements, but most of your time will be spent on your graduate outreach assistantship. So as I mentioned before, this is where you provide your service to an underserved domestic community. And this can be direct or indirect. So it can be boots on the ground or in the form of research. We also have service projects. So we generally have group service projects per year, and we ask that fellows participate in at least 3 of these projects. Excuse me. We usually start with a service project at the beginning of the school year at the community food bank, where we either pack boxes of food or help out in the gardens. So in the past, we've also planted trees at a local high school. We've done trash pickups with the Arizona Conservation Corps on Mount Lemmon. We've tabled at Science City at the Festival of Books. We've helped with the 4th Avenue Street Fair. And we prepared a meal for Primavera Men's Shelter and so forth. So in addition to service projects, we also have outreach. So we ask that fellows participate in an outreach event at least 3 times per year. So fellows can do their third goal by visiting classrooms or by visiting schools or college classrooms, helping the campus recruiter at recruitment events, or by tabling on the mall, by participating in events set up by the community outreach officer for the Fellows Club, and by visiting community groups. So this last requirement is professional and leadership development. So we ask that fellows attend professional development from their departments, professional development events that are offered by other fellows, by attending conferences, and so on. And as you can see here, these are a few of the fellows that have been, and the ways that they've participated, both in the program and then also again in the community. Okay, so one of the required events is our outreach showcase, which happens every March. And these photos right here are from the outreach showcase from just this past March. So it's a great way to display the work or research that you've been completing through your outreach assistantship throughout the year. And you would receive a lot more information on that during that orientation week prior to the beginning of classes in the fall. Okay, so Georgia is going to talk a little bit more about where fellows do their outreach assistantships.
We've developed partnerships throughout the community, and that includes nonprofit organizations, government, educational institutions, charter schools, and outreach units at the University of Arizona. We also have connections with different diverse communities within the Tucson metropolitan area, and we also work with the academic departments and individual faculty, many of whom are very action-oriented in their research agendas. The U of A is also a school with 100% engagement as a goal, for mostly for undergrad students, but we often interface with undergrads who are volunteering at various organizations that we work with. To make this happen, the director, myself, will send out a call to agencies in the community through our listserv of partner agencies, and we invite them to submit position descriptions for the upcoming year, starting for the August through May year. And quite a few always respond. I think this year we had about 45 positions that have been submitted to us, and we still have a few more. So it's kind of a fellows market, I would say, since we have about 27 incoming fellows, and we have usually a few second year continuing fellows that are looking. But basically there are quite a few options. If we have someone who's coming in with very specific interest, we'll always reach out further if the group that responded to our call isn't meeting the needs of an incoming fellow. But we like to vet the agencies that we work with. They have to submit an application form to us, and we will work with them if they submit a position description that's not quite meeting our requirements as a Coverdell Fellows program, primarily working in an underserved community. Early in the summer, we did it in kind of early June this year, we have a virtual career fair. It's through a software package that the Alumni Association utilizes to connect alumni and students. It's not a perfect system, but we have people logging in from around the world. There were folks from numerous continents who were responding, and it's also convenient and handy for the agencies, whether they're in the office or on vacation or at a conference. So we log in for a couple of hours, and you're sort of, you can go into different booths, and we've organized the agencies more or less by their primary interest level or interest area, and you're randomly connected with those agencies. And you have 10 to 12 minutes to chat with them. So it's sort of instant messaging. And you, if you're matched with somebody you don't want to talk to, you just say, nice to meet you. I've already talked with you. I'll move on so we don't waste our time. You can post your photo or resume, and the agencies can post agency information and position descriptions, all of that sort of thing. And happily, everyone can download the record of their chat. So you get enough information to make an appointment. And then we ask the fellows to do interviews over the summer. I encourage fellows and agencies to interview at least 3 different people, sometimes more, sometimes less if your dream site appears to you magically. Then the agencies will make offers to fellows. Fellows can accept or decline, and will receive a placement form from the agencies. We also share resumes and information on the agencies through our file sharing system. During orientation week, we'll bring everybody together, including supervisors and fellows, for a meet and greet, reception, and networking time, and then we'll go over the university procedures and fellow policies that will apply to the site, even though you're being paid by the grad college. The outreach assistantships are a wonderful way to become involved in the community. I've had fellows tell me I feel more a part of this community here in Tucson than I ever did at home, in fact, which was really sort of an amazing compliment for the program, I thought. Many of our fellows have successfully leveraged their assistantships into additional work, summer work, or full-time position job after graduation. And, you know, for example, we have a fellow who is a vice president at United Way here, who works with early childhood education in our community and has really become a terrific community leader. She was tapped for the 40 under 40 honor, and is just a fantastic alum. And she started out in her internship at United Way working in early childhood education. So she really grew that position, and we're really proud of her. The assistantships are something that you have to manage. We always encourage fellows to consolidate their activities and reach in the community as much as possible, so you're not running from one thing to another constantly. You kind of have a schedule that you can hold to and work. You want to make it as helpful for yourself as possible. The kinds of agencies that we work with, we have a few photos on board. The left is Monzo Elementary School, which has turned into a whole school community garden program, and including the feeder schools for Monzo, which include middle schools and high schools close to campus. And what started out as a program with the guidance counselor has morphed into a program of research, of skill development, of professional development. If you visit Monzo Elementary School, you'll be taken around by students who are incredibly articulate. They have a photovoltaic system, a chicken coop, massive greenhouse, hydroponic system. They raise tilapia, and they have desert tortoise habitat, outdoor gardens, and it's fully integrated into their curriculum, including a lot of mathematics and data collection. The children have a market where they sell the produce and learn to handle money and do customer relations. And this is really morphed into a really large program at 20 different schools in the Tucson Unified School District, including many, well, at this school, for example, 90 to 95% are originally Spanish speakers. We have 67 languages spoken at the Tucson Unified School District. So we have fellows that are placed at schools with a high percentage of refugee children, immigrant and migrant children, and it's really turned into an amazing experience. Clinic Amistad is a public health facility that we work with. I'm going to let Andrea tell you about them because she's worked with them and knows more than I do about it, frankly.
So this is where I am currently completing my outreach assistantship through as a clinic co-manager with Casey, who is in the photo on the bottom left. And it is a free primary care clinic for Tucson's underserved population. So on any given night, we see anywhere from 30 to 40 patients. And Casey and I manage a lot of the volunteers here, upwards of currently 90 to 100 volunteer staff that you see in the photos. And so yeah, this is a lot of our dedicated team here that's coming to clinic, and we usually are open in the evenings for clinic.
So these are just two examples, and if you want some other ideas, if you look at the Peace Corps Fellows website on the grad.arizona.edu page, you'll see a section called People. And if you click on the Fellows directory, you'll see where people are currently placed. And if you look through the alumni, graduates, which I've, just as their Mama G, I've collected them all. So we try to track everybody as much as we can. And those that are willing to be listed are there, and you can see where they've worked over the years. So we have a pretty deep reach, and we now have a large professional community of alumni who have remained in Arizona and who are managing a number of sites and organizations, and we reach out to them. So we often have alumni fellows who are managing current fellows. So that's it in a nutshell. Moving on. Still me. What kinds of jobs do fellows get after graduation? I think some people from other parts of the country who come here, and we have folks from most of the major metropolitan areas and areas that are often feeder schools, but we often get people who come here because of the fellows program and not because it was on their immediate list of schools to attend. I am very proud that our fellows have landed terrific jobs all over the world and all over the United States. So the fact that you're in Arizona is an asset. We are considered a top, I think it just came out this last week, a top 20 school for best value. We've often been a best value. We're also a Research One institution, a Carnegie Research One institution. And we have extremely robust programs in a wide variety of areas. We're also really well known internationally for our interdisciplinarity and interdisciplinary programs here. So the fellows placed really well. One year, a few years ago, we had 6 doctoral students graduate at the same time. 5 of the 6 had tenure track jobs all over the country. And if you know anything about doctoral placements, that was a really amazing statistic. Most of our jobs, I would say, most of our fellows will land a job often before they graduate if they start looking in December, January, when I encourage them to start looking. Others want to take a little break in the summer where, you know, we're going to live long and prosper and work for a long time. So some will take a Fulbright fellowship for the year following graduation from a master's degree. That's a really great way to get yourself back abroad. We've had people that work internationally with Oxfam, with Catholic Relief Services, with clinics in Africa, teaching around the world. We have somebody teaching in UAE or Qatar, one of those. And people that just go back to their Peace Corps communities and work. We have people that do take positions in government, federal, state, and local, or with you know, quasi-governmental organizations. And we've had people, we have 2 fellows in public health who became CDC fellows right out. We've had fellows that became hunger fellows, and other major national things. We've had fellows who received the National Science Foundation Fellowship, the Fulbright Hayes Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad, etc. And then we have folks that just want to do that boots on the ground work, so they remain working in local nonprofits or schools. So you won't find any restriction being here. We have a globally connected faculty with many international opportunities. So that's about it.
Okay, so we're going to take another break for questions. So if there's anything else that you've thought of while we've been continuing on, next we'll be talking more about the application process. So you can save all of the application questions. Hopefully we will address those. But if you have any questions so far over the material we've covered, we'll give you all just a few minutes. So Catherine said earlier, you mentioned there are 50 fellows currently. Is that how many are admitted? So usually we have returning fellows or continuing fellows from the prior year, and then we have our incoming cohort. So usually we admit about 25 fellows every year. And it does vary from year to year based on funding and how many fellows are continuing on in the program, and Georgia can speak to that a little bit more.
Catherine, we're awarded 50 quarter-time outreach assistantships total per year. So that our policy is to fund fellows for a minimum of 2 years. Occasionally we'll fund fellows into a 3rd year if they're in an interdisciplinary program such as public health and Latin American studies, a 3-year program, although we do encourage the academic departments to pick up a 3rd year. Landscape architecture is another department with a 3-year degree. So we're not averse to it, but we want to keep the people coming in and keep building our worldwide network of return Peace Corps volunteers. So we take roughly 24 to 27 a year. We have 27 coming in this year, and I think last year it was maybe 26 or 27. Some of it also depends on who's graduating, who got stuck somewhere along the pipeline, that sort of thing. If somebody has an illness or something, we're not going to abandon you in the middle of something. So it varies, but 25 is kind of an average. On average, how many people apply? That it's sometimes mystifying. For years and years, it was about 65 to 70, and then a couple of years ago, we had only 37 apply, and then this year we had about 67 or 8, and then I sort of stopped the pipeline at that point. We'll basically accept applications through March 1st. Some departments are rather slow in making decisions, so it can be kind of challenging for students in those departments. So there's definitely, we'll talk a little bit about timing on the application process, but we want to make sure that fellows apply as early as possible.
So Andrew asked, how challenging has it been balancing the community outreach and service portion of the fellowship with academic commitments? And I would say a lot of that depends on the academic program that you are currently in. I'm a little bit of a different, my situation's a little bit different because I'm in an accelerated master's program and it's only 15 months and it goes from summer to summer. So for me, it has been quite challenging at times trying to balance everything. But it's definitely possible. And something that we'll talk about, or that Georgia did mention earlier, was the work study as well. And depending on the year, like this past year, it was just myself and one other individual that took advantage of the work study opportunity. So I was actually extending the hours that I was working with my outreach assistantship site. But it's definitely possible. It just requires organization and time management. And then I think it's also important to realize that, you do want to be able to practice self-care and have time to enjoy Tucson and enjoy friends and being in graduate school as well. And I don't see any other questions at the moment, but again, feel free to just add them into the chat box as they come up. So we're going to go ahead and keep going. Okay, so we are going to talk about the application process. So it's really important that you recognize that you will need to apply to both your academic program and to the Coverdell Fellows program. So these are two separate applications, and they may even have different deadlines. And so again, here, as Georgia had mentioned just a minute ago, here is the priority deadline, which is usually the 15th of January of every year. And then the second round deadline, which is March 1st. And then notifications typically go out anywhere between March to June.
I just want to add on regarding the notification process. I know it's can be frustrating for the applicants because you know, everybody adheres to the deadlines, and then you don't hear and you don't hear, or else you do hear. The reason that it takes so long is that many students apply to all the universities, and many students apply to multiple universities. So we're part of the Council of Graduate Schools here at the University of Arizona, which states that no student must respond to an offer before April 15th, and that's year after year. And most large universities and colleges that are part of the Council of Grad Schools have that policy. It's a policy we all sign on to, agree to. There are departments that will provide sort of early admission, especially those I think that have a summer start, like nursing or the Teach Arizona, and they're going to want a pretty quick reply. So if you're applying to a program like that, you want to, well, we'll sort of know it, but you'll want to reach out to us and let us know. And then if you're in a department that's clocking along, we work closely with the academic departments. We look at their rankings, and we also have our own review process, and we try to work with them to invite as many people as possible. What I find is that there are certain students that are going to get admitted to a large number of schools, and often they may be waiting for a particular school, so they'll kind of sit on it for quite a while up until that April 15th deadline. And then a whole lot happens in the 5 to 7 days before April 15th. So once we know our replies to that first round, we start making additional offers. And I like to give the students that receive an offer from us enough time to think about it. So that may be 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending. So sometimes you'll get a yes back right away. Sometimes you won't get anything back. So just sort of think about it. You know, I know often the student is under pressure, but it's kind of a two-way street. We try to be fair and equitable and give everybody adequate time to respond. But if you know where you want to go, say yes as soon as you can, and that speeds up the process for everybody else. Just a little tip.
Okay, and so we're going to talk about, well, Georgia already kind of touched on how we pick the incoming class and how many fellows are accepted each year. I don't know, Georgia, did you have anything else?
I'll just add, I mentioned that we work closely with the academic departments. We don't make an offer until we know that you're admitted to the academic program. So if you haven't been admitted to the academic program, then apply pressure first there. Sometimes that depends on, you know, there's always a faculty review committee, and if that faculty is traveling or really under other, like I've been under a grant deadline most of the summer, it seems like, and it's really taken me off other duties that I have. But we'll read, our staff will read it. We sometimes have alumni read our applications, and the questions that we ask are pretty straightforward. I myself have adult children who have applied to grad school, many grad schools and many veterinary schools. And I understand the pain and the cost of applying to a variety of schools. So the questions are always alike yet not alike, and they all take your time and attention, and it just gets tiresome. I get that. So do your best though to be responsible in applying to the questions that we ask. We want to know your cultural maturity. I think what you learn through the process of Peace Corps. We get that Peace Corps is not always a bed of roses. It's sometimes more a bed of thorns. We look at how you dealt with some of the common adversities that show up in Peace Corps. I heard from a fellow this morning who's got his departmental internship abroad and came down, contracted malaria and typhoid this summer. And you know, we understand illness, we understand emergency evacuations, we understand political crises in the country, we understand communities where a connection is difficult to make, and we want to know what you learned from that. That's life, that it's not always perfect. So how did that increase your maturity as a citizen of the world and someone who wants to apply those skills back in the United States? So we also have one of our fellow staff members who reads these has a doctorate in the English department in rhetoric and composition. And I myself have a large, pretty significant background. So we're impressed when you have taken time to be grammatical and to spell things properly and to thoughtfully put together at least a 5-sentence paragraph. If you can do it for the GRE, you can do it for us. So I think I'll just kind of leave it there. Well, maybe one last thing is we're really looking for the people that want to be here, who have taken time to research the issues in Southern Arizona and have a reason for being here, both for the academic program and for the opportunities in the community. So if we are that place, let us know in the best way you can with some enthusiasm. And if you can visit, honestly, that helps. We can't bring you in. But if you can make it by here sometime, I think that that's usually beneficial. Okay.
Okay, so here's just some of the more nitty-gritty details about the application process itself, and it's pretty straightforward. But you can go to this link right here, which brings you to our application. And some of the different components, it will ask for information about you as an applicant, your academic program of interest, some information about your Peace Corps service, your resume, your DOS, and 3 essay questions. And so one of the questions that we often get asked is, can I submit my application if I don't have a DOS yet, if I'm still in service? And Georgia?
I'm going to answer that because we're going to change this a little bit this year. What we've always had people do is just develop a draft DOS that's not signed. Usually there's a template that will be given to you upon completion of service. This last year we had a fairly large number of people apply while still in service. And my contact with U.S. Peace Corps recommended that you submit a letter from your supervisor in country with Peace Corps if you have not yet completed your service. We like the DOS, your description of service, because it tells us, I feel like I could write them in my sleep. I've read so many of them, honestly, but it gives us the description of how you provided your service. We're always interested in the secondary projects that you undertake because those often show your passion and sometimes greater, I don't know, different kind of success than with your assigned job, now that Peace Corps has such assigned jobs. And it is going to be changed so that in the future it will state very clearly if you are qualified to seek the Coverdell Fellowship. So we have to always do an eligibility check in relation to the Coverdell requirements.
Okay, and then again, I just wanted to reiterate that you will need to submit 2 applications, one to us and one to your academic department. that you're interested in applying to. And so these deadlines are often different. So you'll want to make sure that you're aware of those deadlines for the department and of the different requirements for admission.
Catherine, I just noticed that you asked I'm going to just go back. I noticed that did you answer it? Okay, very good. Never mind.
Yeah, and again, if we'll give you all a moment here in just a few minutes, but any questions that you have, you can just put them into that chat box. Okay, so George is going to speak to what makes an applicant competitive.
I think I've been weaving this through my other comments, but do remember it's competitive. We look at the whole thing holistically. It's not just about your GPA or your GRE. Those are questions for your department. The grad college has a minimum of a 3.0 GPA to be admitted, but they're looking at your last 60 units or last 2 years on that. A more competitive department will have higher standards. Review criteria are listed on the website, and we're really looking for students that know why you're going back to grad school, not just that you need something to do after Peace Corps. We want to see some evidence of dedication to service of underserved communities at home as well as in Peace Corps. We want to know how you have carried out the third goal of Peace Corps upon your return. We want to know about your connection to the academic program and the Coverdell program. How will that integrate? Sometimes I'll get a question, since we have some latitude in the departments where we accept people, I'll get something that's very hardcore science research, I don't know, astronomy or something. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to deal with that in terms of service to an underserved community? So we're always looking for some kind of connection that's, sort of a professional direction or a connection with what you want to do with the theme of service. And we're always happy to see demonstrated initiative or leadership, hardcore skills. We have agencies that need hardcore skills, cultural and developmental maturity, which I've spoken about already.
Okay. So again, this is going to be Georgia, so I'm going to let her take that one.
Okay. I also get that every university has a slightly different organization, and it's annoying to sort of sift through to figure out who you're supposed to be talking to. On the grad college main page, there's a little link called Search Programs of Study, something like that. It's at the top right. And it will give you a link to the academic program that you're interested in. It lists all the academic programs, all the different degrees. So you can sort down, and you should see someone who is an admissions coordinator and a graduate advisor who's usually some sort of faculty person or a postdoctoral person. So those are the main contacts for academic questions or admission on the academic side. So if you have those questions about GRE, GPA, opportunities for funding within the department for teaching or research assistantship, questions about faculty. Some departments want you to reach out and make a faculty connection because they basically, over in the college bag and life sciences, it's almost mandatory to have a faculty person who will sponsor you, even for a master's degree. The specific academic requirements, the specific deadlines for the academic program can all be handled through that. Some departments, like College of Public Health, have a great, amazing coordinator. They have ambassadors, they have webinars, all of that. Others, you have to do a little more digging to find it out. If you can't find it out, or you're not sure you're even talking to the right department, get in touch with us, and we're happy to help with those kinds of referrals. We're pretty good on, for example, we have had someone this last year who started out with environmental engineering but really wanted to do hydrology, so they ended up making a shift. So we know, because we're so interdisciplinary, we have a pretty good handle on what departments are working on what kinds of issues, and where you might find the happiest home depending on your background and prereqs and that sort of thing. So anything related to Peace Corps Coverdell Fellows, give us a call.
And I would say too, we can also put you in contact with current fellows and fellows alum that have been in our program. And they're a really great resource as well, just because every different college and academic program can be a little bit different. And sometimes, again, it can be overwhelming and frustrating to figure out who you need to talk to for what. So we would be happy to make those connections as well. So what else should I do between now and spring? So here's just a few different things that we recommend. So, well, and you're also going to want to do this, but submitting both of your academic and Coverdell Fellows applications as soon as you, I would say probably in the fall, to really start considering getting those submitted. So you're also going to want to file your FAFSA between October 1st and March 1st if you're looking to apply for fall of 2019. And then lastly, we always enjoy when people come and stop by and visit us in the office, so please feel free to do so. And you can just send either Georgia or myself an email to set up an appointment. We can even, again, introduce you to other fellows that are in the program or in the program that you are interested in. And depending on when you are in town, we would also love to have you participate in one of the many service projects, professional development events, or outreach sessions that we offer throughout the year and that fellows participate in. So here's just a few things as we're kind of winding down, some of the different things that Tucson has to offer. And so some of the things that you'll see up here, this is a really big event that takes place. This is Festival of Books that we had spoken about earlier, but that we usually have a booth at, and that it's a third goal outreach opportunity for the fellows. And this is the biosphere here. Which is now owned by the university. Yep. And I might let Georgia speak a little bit more to it. I'm actually not from Tucson. I'm one of the ones that migrated to Tucson for the program. So.
Well, Biosphere is a really interesting entity. It's in the community of Oracle, just a little north of Tucson, and it's basically a research center now, and it's really amazing opportunity for anybody working in the arena of climate, biology, that sort of thing. There's some telescopes on the far right. That's Kitt Peak National Observatory. We have another sky school up on Mount Lemmon, a different mountain. We're all kind of surrounded by 4 mountain ranges here, not the Rocky Mountains, but they're nice little mountains. You can see some people on the lower left who are climbing. We have lots of sunshine here in southern Arizona, so our fellows are often involved in many outdoor activities. We have a Peace Corps, PC United soccer team. We have had fellows who have played softball, tennis. We have a huge running community here. The Atlanta Marathon was just won by a Tucson senior runner who was well-known international runner. The Perimeter Bicycling Organization is behind that gaggle of bikes in the middle of the stage. A lot of our fellows rely primarily on bikes as their mode of transportation. You can see some of the architecture, the beautiful skies. There's a little bit of the mountain range in the upper left. The downtown has grown and changed greatly in the time that I've lived here since the 1990s. It's really kind of a hopping place with a lot of student housing downtown, lots of restaurants and different kinds of entertainment venues, a lot of music here, a lot of theater, and a lot of just really fun and interesting things. We're a tourist destination. So the winter from about October to, I would say, March to April, we have a lot of winter visitors who come from all over the place, including other countries, and that adds to the diversity here. There I think there's something like 22 Native American nations, tribes that live in Arizona. We have 2 in southern Arizona, the Pasquayaqui and the Tohono O'odham. And that adds another lovely opportunity to learn about different cultures. Housing is pretty affordable here. I have a Boston daughter, and the average rent in Boston these days runs around $2,800 a month or something. I think you can certainly rent a nice house here with 2 or 3 or 4 bedrooms for and more than 1,000. But when you break that down with a couple of housemates, I think probably sort of average rent here might be in the neighborhood of $700 a month. I've seen some fellows manage lower, some do higher. Depends on what you want, where you want to be. There's a lot of off-campus housing that the fellows tend to stay in. There are a few people that will stay in the grad housing on campus. Always lots of fun events. This is monsoon season here, so I'm happy duck. We're getting a little bit of rain and beautiful sunsets right now. Most of the year is pretty dry. We get a little bit of rain in December and randomly off and on. Depends a little bit on El Nino. Some people will earnestly write and say, I want to keep my Spanish going. That's not a problem here. We have many Spanish speakers, and I think, if you live here long, almost everybody speaks a little Spanish, if not a lot of Spanish. And then there are a lot of Arizona has, I think, the 3rd largest number of refugees of any state. So we're always looking for people who can speak those kinds of the languages that our particular refugees have here. So, top 10. Okay, yeah. So we're close to Mexico. We're about 45 kilometers, I think, from Nogales. And that opens up another world of exploration. We're 4 or 5 hours to the Baja California in water. We're about, depending on how fast you drive, we're about 6 hours to San Diego in the Pacific Ocean. And we're 2 hours from Phoenix and not too far from LA. You can hop on a plane and go anywhere in the world from here. So I love Tucson. I grew up in West Texas and lived in Austin and Ohio for quite a large part of my adult life. And Tucson has so many levels of interest and intriguing people here who really are involved in the community and are very conscious of cultural opportunities and the needs of all people. And it's a very welcoming and friendly community also.
Wonderful. So one last opportunity, if you have any additional questions. This pretty much concludes our presentation here, our webinar. So we'll give you all just a minute or two.
I'd encourage you also just to let us know if you plan to apply. We'll add you to our list of inquiries. I think probably most of you are already on it, but just for anybody else that listens to this, and I think Andrea is going to be putting a recording of this on our website. And so if you missed a part of it or your internet service flaked out on you, you can go back in and listen.
Okay, even if you don't have any questions, will you just let me know? That way wonderful. Yep, so we'll go ahead and add you, Catherine. And I'm just going to turn to our last slide here while you all are still adding in any final comments. This is just a better breakdown of the academic programs that we support.
You'll find this on our website as well. If you're anxious to participate in a different academic program, give us an email and I'll let you know if we can work with that department. We're fairly flexible, but we do want you to be in a academic program which will accommodate your other responsibilities as a Coverdell Fellow. And do look through our website at grad.arizona.edu/Peace Corps. The USPeaceCorps.gov site is great for sort of giving people a link to our program, but it has very limited information and isn't as detailed as most students need to know to make a good decision about where they want to come. We really hope you'll apply here, and we look forward to working with you over the next year.
Okay, everyone, I think that that's going to go ahead and conclude our webinar. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Georgia or myself. I will go ahead and send you all an email once this is over, just that way you have our emails. I will be on through the rest of the summer, so probably early August, someone else will be transitioning into the role, including in addition to Elizabeth. So you will be communicating with somebody else, but Georgia is a wealth of information, so I definitely encourage reaching out to her with more program specifics. So thank you all very much, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.